I think we've all had those points where we're online, scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, and you come across something that just unlocks a memory. So like something from your childhood, something you played as a kid, a movie, a TV show, whatever. And for me recently, this is when I came across a few videos on YouTube about Toontown Online, which was an MMO from way back in the early 2000s, which was made by Disney, where you played as a cartoon person and fought weird business robots. I actually played it for a short time when I was a kid, and I sucked at it. This sent me down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out what the heck happened, so that's what we'll be looking at today. The rise and fall of Toontown Online. Now before we get started, this is only my second video in this format, and the first video I made about character.ai, which if you haven't seen you should check out. I've actually felt pretty good about it. But that video kind of took off, and I just want to say thank you to everybody who commented, liked, watched it. It really means a lot, and it was a video I felt confident in, and I feel like I've kind of found a groove here. So yeah, thank you. Toontown Online, or simply Toontown, was an MMO that came out in 2003, made by Disney. It was based around Disney's animal characters. Think Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, those kinds of characters. Players could create characters called Toons, which could be various shapes and sizes. You could customize them with different outfits and clothing. They could be many different animals such as cats, dogs, ducks, mice, pigs, rabbits, bears, horses, and monkeys. The main antagonist of the game were these robots called cogs. They were business robots that were here to spread their evil corporate world over to the wonderful town, Toontown, which is ironic with how huge of a corporation Disney is, but that's besides the point. Cogs came in 4 different types: brown-clad boss bots, blue-clad law bots, green-clad cash bots, and maroon-clad sell bots. As the player leveled up and explored more areas, naturally the enemies would, their health would increase and their damage output would increase. But it was typically just these 4 types. One of the funny things with the combat is that it isn't traditional weapons. Toons are armed with things called gags. Gags are jokes that are used to fight against the evil and the sadness of the cogs, and you could buy these using the game's currency. Jelly beans. Naturally. Different gags had different purposes. So lures were set out before the trap gags, so you could bring the bot forward. There were sounds and throws, a few different types of gags that were available. One was called auga, spelled like that. Other gags included cupcakes, birthday cakes, TNT, and many, many more. The list goes on and on and on, and it's just really silly to imagine people fighting with these things. A player's health was represented by a laugh meter, and instead of dying, when their laugh meter became low enough, they would become too sad to fight and they would be sent to a playground. And a playground was the only place that was completely safe from cogs. In playgrounds, Toons could regain lost laugh points and engage in other activities that were not combat-oriented. These activities, called Toon tasks, were unique to each playground. You could play trolley games, go fishing, kart racing, or golfing. By completing Toon tasks, Toons would grow in strength by gaining additional laugh points, or new gags. Something that struck me as a little odd when I was researching this was player housing. It was something that each player got their own estate, which included a bunch of things. Their estate came with a fishing pond and 6 houses for each Toon on the player's account. And I just thought it was interesting that this MMO for kids included player housing. Maybe I haven't played enough MMOs, but I know in like Star Wars Galaxies, for example, it takes a while to get your own player housing. You don't start with it right away. Players could customize their Toons with different clothing items. They could also customize their estate with different cosmetics for their houses and the interiors. These items were ordered through an in-game catalog called Clarabella's Catalog, and of course it used the jelly bean currency. Other things that you could do on your estate were raise your pets called doodles, you could garden, you could fish. All of this was available through the Clarabelle's catalog. Other than the game's very unique style, another thing that made Toontown stand out was the level of coordination required to advance in the game. Playing solo was something that was very difficult, and having a group of people not only made the game more fun, but it also made it so much more balanced. Two of the biggest forums for the game, being Toontown Hall and Toontown Central, were primarily used for players to find others to create these parties to go through the game, because with the game being marketed towards kids and primarily played by kids, Disney implemented a very, very strict chat system. Users on these forums would also set up various events with, player-made limits like speed runs or challenges, only certain types of gags, things like that. This is why Toontown had one of the closest knit communities of any MMORPG from that time. Not only this, but it was also considered a fantastic place to roleplay. There was an entire section of the town called Toon Valley, which was primarily used for role-playing. These role-plays ranged from things like warrior cats to adoption centers, game shows, and yes, a few dating shows because it's an MMO played by people on the internet, and e-dating kind of just comes with that. Some players were so invested that they would go on to create their own Toontown social medias. Some players were so invested that they created their own Toontown social networks, the biggest of which being the Toon Book. This was yet another way for players to get around the very, very restrictive. The exact population of the game is something that is quote-unquote classified according to Jesse Schell. However, a lot of players who played during the peak of 2005 to 2007 claim to have seen 10,000 players on at one time. The highest number I saw thrown around was around 14,000. Now granted, these are, unofficial, unconfirmed resources, but I still think it speaks to just the sheer popularity of this game. But with all great early MMOs, they do sadly eventually die out. And we're going to get into a controversy that many attribute to the downfall of the entire game. Many people would say that 2009 is when Disney really started to slack. There were hardly any updates coming out anymore, and moderation was few and far between. The lack of moderation within the community is what led to the rise of hacking. The most popular from the early days would be a user by the name of Freckle Sam. What Freckle Sam would do is he would use texture mods to change the colors of his clothing to things that were impossible to obtain, and naturally this gained a lot of attention. You had many people, kids and other players, thinking, I want those things. Specifically, one thing he did was he colored his gloves a certain way, which was something you could not do at all, from my understanding. And in the early days, that was the hacking that occurred, just people changing their outfits to get unique items that didn't exist. Pretty harmless stuff, until a user by the name Maverick showed up. And that's a hacking name if I have ever heard one. Maverick started using something called an injector, which basically allowed you to copy and paste code and then use that to hack the game. This meant that somebody with no knowledge of hacking or coding in any way could just copy and paste it right into the game. This essentially opened Pandora's box, allowing literally anyone who could find the code and the injector to hack the game however they wanted. And for the most part, it was people just changing the colors of their outfits using those texture hacks I mentioned. And then some more harmful hacking began to rise. One of the main ones being mass booting, basically kicking out people in an entire server or section of the game. This led to groups of hackers forming, groups like Team FD, Team Smart, Team Trap, and Mod Clan. These groups tried to justify what they were doing. Some of them tried to say that it was to spite Disney for ignoring the game, and others were saying that, oh, this is the only way to get Disney to come back and support the game again, is if we hack it and cause all these problems. Whether or not you believe these stories, I mean, that's kind of up to you. A user who went by the name Fritz, who is the leader of the Team Smart hacking group, was one of those people who said that he was doing it to get Disney's attention to try and, get support back to the game. However, Fritz wanted to take things a bit further. He recruited 2 teenagers, Sir Max, who was the creator of Toon Book, and FD Greencat, who we will hear a lot more about later. FD Greencat was also the leader of another hacking group. In July 2011, all 3 of them began flooding the game with bots. This severely lagged the game. Fritz wanted to keep the chaos under control, make it enough to cause a problem, but not enough to completely ruin the game for people. However, FD Greencat had completely different ideas. What he would do is leak the code that they used for the bots to his hacking team, which just made the problem blow up exponentially. This made the game pretty much unplayable, between the lagging and the bots literally making it impossible to access certain parts of the game. It was completely out of control. After this had went down, Fritz and Sir Max heavily regretted what they did, Fritz completely disappearing and Sir Max focusing all of his attention back on Toon Book. Surprisingly, this did gain the developers' attention, and they were able to patch out the injector. So, I guess technically they got what they wanted, which, if I were ending right here, it would be kind of an okay ending. Like, hey, we got it patched and now the game is stable again. But no. It might sound stupid for me to say this, but FD Greencat is a lot like the Joker, because he just wants to watch the world burn. In 2012, FD Greencat released yet another injector, and this caused the hacking problem to skyrocket right back up to where it was in 2011. During the last 2 to 3 years of Toontown's existence, there were 2 very popular channels, the latter of which regularly had double the cap of 500 players. You might be wondering, how is that possible? In Toontown, you had the ability to teleport someone anywhere in the game. This included full channels. Yeah. Players in the Toontown forum created a program called Keep Alive, which allowed you to idle in any part of the game for any amount of time without being disconnected. This meant that someone could make an account with Keep Alive on, then go to their main account to teleport to the idling Toon, enabling constant access to what would be a full channel. And naturally, that caused a ton of lag. This is something that FD Greencat and his team would use as an excuse to do their mass booting, saying that they were just declogging the servers for the admins, which I don't know if anyone believed at the time, but it was their excuse. The straw that broke the camel's back occurred in the summer of 2013. Many point to this as one of, if not the reason that Toontown shut down. Oh, also, hackers figured out that if you made the bots dance or play any sort of animation, it would cause even more lag, so that's fun. FD Greencat once again used the excuse that he was doing this to bring attention to the game and get the developers to pay attention to it again and continue to patch and support the game. People believed this until Sir Max pointed out that, FD Greencat was the one who released the damn injector, and that is why they were facing these issues now, and that caused everyone to turn on FD Greencat once again. At this point, Sir Max had fully kind of redeemed himself in the eyes of the community because of his dedication to Toon Book, and also he became very, very anti-hacking after the whole situation in 2011. He really did feel guilty about the whole thing. At this point, Disney would shut down the main servers of the game for a few days for maintenance to try and clear out the bot problem. Dedicated players tried to go over to the test servers to continue playing the game while Disney was doing maintenance. And needless to say, hackers found it and then caused more problems there, which led to Disney permanently shutting down the test servers. The main servers opened up once again on August 19th, 2013, before being shut down for a 3-hour maintenance period the next day. This was followed by an announcement from Disney that Toontown Online would be shutting down on September 19th, 2013. While it's silly to say that dancing bots, which lagged the game even more, was the only reason that Disney shut down the game, would be silly. It is certainly a contributing factor. That combined with the just general decline in players over the past few years. Since Disney pulled the plug on everything, Many fans have created their own community servers, such as Toontown Infinite and Toontown Rewritten, which Toontown Rewritten is actually still active to this day, as far as I know. However, turns out these servers also have a ton of drama and some spyware problems, I found out. I think that's a story for another day. Wink, wink. So I feel that the conclusion we can draw here is that hackers suck and they ruin everything for everyone, and they are no fun. But in all seriousness, going into this, I really didn't know that the Toontown shutdown lore was so deep. I didn't realize it had such a big bot problem until I began reading posts from forums from back then talking about it. Somebody said that running around aimlessly and trying to avoid the dancing robots was the best way to simulate being in a zombie apocalypse when you're 10 years old. Which I think kind of sums up the whole Toontown experience towards the end of its life. But overall, Toontown was a very popular MMO that had a sad fall, and it was just strange to read about all of this because of such my limited knowledge that I had when I was a little kid and I heard about this MMO. I had only played it during the later years, and I didn't get to see it at its prime. So doing all this research, like I said, was very interesting, and I really enjoyed making this, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So thank you for watching, and if you want me to get into the drama of the fan servers like Toontown Infinite and Toontown Rewritten, which apparently some of the hacking groups I previously mentioned are very involved in those, so it should be a doozy. But if you want me to talk about those, please let me know. Thank you again for watching, I really appreciate it.